everyone. Welcome to this Executive Panel podcast brought to you by 2020 Pharma, the educational resource for pharmaceutical executives. Today's podcast is hosted by Reid Graves, the Global Master Data Manager for the ERP program at Pfizer. He is joined by three experts to discuss applying lean principles to the front end of innovation. Here's Reid now to introduce the panelists and topic further.
Lean and Six Sigma, LSS, have contributed to growth throughout the commercial and government sectors, and a growing number of organizations are using LSS to streamline operations and improve efficiency in businesses, ranging from insurance to IT to hospital services. One of the latest developments in the world of Lean and Six Sigma is the use of these methodologies in research and development. Hi, my name is Reid Graves. I'm the Manager of Global Master Data Management at Pfizer. I'll be moderating this podcast today on applying lean principles to the front end of innovation. To discuss this topic further, I'm joined by three industry experts: Kevin Connor from Decision Lens, Anand Sharma from TBM Consulting Group, and Richard Holland from TBM Consulting Group. Gentlemen, let's start by painting the overview of research and development. The cost of new medications getting to market has grown dramatically over the years. In the year 2000, the estimate was $800 million in about 10 years. Currently, it's estimated to be $1.3 billion and up to 15 years to get a new drug through the approval stage. Additionally, the FDA has seen a reduction in approvals. In 1996, there were 53 approvals by the FDA. In 2009, that number dropped to 19, which is less than half. It's hard to imagine that Lean Six Sigma couldn't add significant value in cutting costs and reducing cycle times. So, gentlemen, let's begin. And if you don't mind, I'd like for you to introduce yourself, starting with Kevin, and then Anand and Richard.
Hi, Reid. This is Kevin Connor from Decision Lens. Decision Lens is an organization that provides a collaborative prioritization and collaborative decision-making software platform to help organizations bring together both their quantitative and qualitative information to better inform their decisions.
Anand?
Hi, Reid. This is Anand Sharma. I'm President and CEO of TBM Consulting Group. TBM Consulting Group is an organization on a global basis provides business excellence for various industries, including pharmaceuticals, as well as service organizations. And we've been in business for about 20 years implementing these types of strategies globally.
And Richard?
Hi, Reid. Yes, so I'm MD Europe, also working for TBM with Anand.
Excellent. Kevin, I'd like to start with you. Could we start by looking at the present-day scenario when it comes to processes at pharmaceutical and biotech organizations and what you believe could be improved by implementing lean methodologies?
Sure, Reid. I probably bring a bit of a biased perspective to this, given that my day-in, day-out job is to work on decision-making. But I think one of the main areas that we could really focus on is the decision-making processes organizations and how they can be improved using a lean mindset. Stephen Eppinger wrote an article at MIT years ago that was published in the Harvard Business Review called Innovation at the Speed of Information. And in this article, he argued that you can tirelessly work to reduce task duration and execution, but it may not be the speed or flow of your activity that is, but more so looking at and assuring that the information that enables those flows comes together in a timely fashion. And I think you can take this even a step further and think about how decision processes become the next constraint in that flow once that information becomes available. The processes of deciding, undeciding, deciding not to decide, and redeciding are all very wasteful processes. And all progress depends on decision-making. No decisions, no action, no results, no learning. Zero-defect decisions is certainly something everybody can make. Everybody making decisions under uncertainty should be interested in.
Thank you, Kevin. Anand?
Well, it's interesting that drug industry or the pharmaceutical industry, just like any other industry, can benefit from implementation of Lean Six Sigma. But pharmaceutical industry has three distinct phases where it can benefit from these strategies. One, of course, is the new product development to commercialization, bringing new pharmaceuticals to the public. The second one is how they operate during the protection, where they have protection under patent. And the third one is getting ready to coming out of the patent, because these three are distinct areas. But the important thing is organizations don't morph from one phase or one culture to other cultures. We believe that by adopting business excellence, part of the Lean Six Sigma, companies can manage the entire journey through these phases in a way that they bring a lot of value.
Yeah, probably diving down into the detail a little more, but interesting where Kevin was coming from. Quite often within, the R&D side of the business, it's around cutting up that fairly lengthy process as it stands today in several years into discrete chunks where key decisions can be made, so that the frequency of returning back to the beginning and starting again is limited, as well as making it more of a team-based approach, so that people are at certain times during the journey coming together. And then finally, I would say, in terms of just creating the management system around it, so that we've got a faster process for informing people on where we're at in the journey, and so getting those processes improved so that we can shorten that whole lead time.
Yeah, and reducing that cycle time should allow us to get products through the research and development pipeline faster.
Right, because I think within the industry today there is a dearth, or there are fewer products and research ideas coming through for these businesses. So the ones that are left, there is a real need to accelerate the pace at which they're coming through, rather than leaving the businesses with their existing products and those going down to a generic status and causing significant turmoil in the businesses later on.
Anand, let me go back to you. What are some of the reasons companies are applying Lean in their various departments, and what Lean methodologies are used? How does it change and drive value? What outcomes can be achieved when these methodologies are applied in an organization?
Thanks, Reid. That's a good question. First and foremost, as you know, Lean implementation started with automotive industry from the early 70s to primarily to the 80s, but in 90s, when we started bringing these concepts to the Western world, since then, just about all industries have adapted these principles. Primarily, these principles are aligned to first improve responsiveness of the companies to everything they do for customers, improving reliability, process capability. In other words, really improving the operational excellence. Today, these principles are used to improve the effectiveness of selling process, financial processes, as well as research and development, as you said. So in terms of, if you look at the last 2 decades, the benefits companies have received, other than pharmaceuticals, because pharmaceuticals have not really taken on this challenge, they've taken it on only recently. Mm-hmm. Most companies, and we work with hundreds of companies over 2 decades, have been able to grow at 2 to 3x the rate of their industry, mm-hmm. those who are effectively implementing Lean and Six Sigma, and their profitability rate is 4 to 6x of their industry, which is quite phenomenal, because this gives you then the capability to invest in the future. Yeah. And it is all done by involving people, as Richard was saying. It is all done in teamwork environment. It is all done by really getting all of your human resources engaged creatively in the process of executing your strategies. And one other very important part is that everything in Lean Six Sigma is focused on satisfying the customers, being more responsive, being more reliable, being more dependable.
Exactly.
And as you do that, you find out that you have this unique competitive advantage that you can do significantly more with less by tapping into the hidden potential of your people. Mm-hmm. So it's all about people. And that really transcends every industry, including pharmaceuticals, where we believe that they can benefit not only in reducing lead time, and which we have done in many times when we work with pharmaceutical industry, even in the new product or launch of new drugs, we've been able to reduce the time of certain segments that we were involved significantly. Mm-hmm. And as you know, the time equals money. If you can take the drug to the market for 6 years versus 12 years, you'll probably end up spending half as much. Mm-hmm. And you'll have probably more competitive advantage.
Well, Kevin, give us your thoughts, please.
I think Anand touched on several things that are very interesting. I think the increasingly competitive and complex environment that we all find ourselves operating in is part of what's driving the need for a sort of a resurgence and focus on lean principles again, because that stakeholder environment, that customer, I think is getting harder and harder to define in some ways because there's many. Mm-hmm. There's the customer themselves, the end user or patient. There's the payer, the prescriber. Across the board, we have regulatory agencies. Yeah. There's a lot of different stakeholder voices in the mix nowadays. And if you couple that sort of very complex external ecosystem with your own internal multiple stakeholder view of things in terms of your own competing objectives internally and competing information or asymmetric information in your organization that can drive your innovation processes, this becomes a pretty significant challenge to really drive toward what is the customer need and who is the primary customer. One of the things we hear over and over in our work at Decision Lens is the term buy-in, and just how important it is to engender buy-in to the process and to the commitments of the organization against their strategies, so that there's a level of transparency and openness in the decisions that are being made and how organizations are willing to really commit to those to move forward in a concerted effort to achieve those goals. Without that, what we often see is a lot of sort of passive aggressiveness that kind of sets up in organizations when people feel they haven't had an opportunity to weigh in on these things. And at the same time, we find it's very interesting that some of the thinking or branding of Lean and Six Sigma principles in the past may appear to make it look a bit process heavy for the sort of sense of urgency and the speed we need to be moving at to adapt to our markets. Yet at the same time, in the absence of those disciplines, you don't engender that buy-in. You don't get the right information into the mix to make the best choices. And, this becomes a very sort of challenging thing to get through. But there's no way to walk a mile without walking a mile. We have to find a way to be willing to commit to the disciplines that we all know will bring better results and set up those business processes and find ways to bring those people together around those so that they actually can. You get the best thinking and the best information into the process to assure that you're really placing the best bets.
I think that's absolutely right. And one of the facets within Lean that I think really helps is the whole management system around how do we ensure that all people are aligned to what's going on within the business and making sure that we're all actually trying to achieve the same strategic goals of the business that need to be achieved. And often what you find within quite often R&D areas is that it's really not that aligned when you go across the organization and find out what everybody's trying to achieve. So I think some key elements here that help companies to shorten that timeline is just making sure everybody is very clear on what they're there to deliver and what are the key priorities of the organization, not only at the strategic level, but all the way down, right through the organization, so everyone's very clear what we're trying to achieve. So absolutely.
Well, Richard, let me turn to you. How do companies score the success of Lean effectiveness? I know that there are 7 categories of waste in Lean and Six Sigma, and I think those are the areas that we want to target for cutting costs and reducing cycle times. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's interesting, I think some people get a little lost in this. I think there are occasions where people feel that Lean is this set of tools that gets measured in some way different to normal business. And the thing that we've learned over our time is that That's the best way to measure lean is to review the business itself, what's important to the business, its